Hi, I'm Hannah Dixon, and as Father Castor talked about, the Passion began with our first no and our first rejection of God in the Garden of Eden, and it continued for centuries up into the culmination of Jesus dying on the cross when he laid his hands out and he said, "It is finished." But in these last couple of months, I haven't been focusing on the broad centuries. I've been focusing on 2 days in particular, Holy Thursday and Good Friday. And in particular, I've been trying to understand how much love he would have had for all of us to be able to go through so much pain, how he was pleading so hard with God in the Garden of Gethsemane, how to the point where he was sweating blood. And then he was taken to prison, and the next day scourged. He was whipped, and then crowned with a crown of thorns, and not just rose thorns, big thorns piercing into his head. And then he was given a cross, and he carried it for us. And we nailed him to the cross, and he died. Specifically, I've found a sort of home in the Garden of Gethsemane and taking all of my stresses and my struggles to God and doing what Jesus did and saying, "Not my will, but thy will be done," and trying to give those all to God. But what I missed was the most important part. Wasn't that Jesus just stayed in the garden or that he left and he just tried to be a good person. He left the garden and he took the pains and he took up his cross and he did it out of love for his Father. And during this time of prayer, meditating on the sufferings of Jesus, I found St. Gertrude the Great. And she is an amazing Benedictine nun. And throughout her life, she had different visions of Jesus. And in one of them, she asked Jesus how many wounds he received throughout the Passion. And he answered that he received 5,466 wounds. And so she came up with this prayer, and one of the versions is saying this specific prayer 15 times a day, every day for a year. And each prayer symbolizes one wound of Jesus. So by the end of the year, you will have said a prayer for every single wound of Jesus. And so I started it last July, and I am not at all perfect at it. Some days it's just rote repetition and just trying to get the words out. But some days I come to a deeper understanding of the pain and the love, and through that I have just more thanksgiving for God. But one of the biggest blessings that I've received through the prayers of St. Gertrude, through focusing on the Passion, came at Mass a couple weeks ago. And I received Holy Communion, and I went back, and I knelt down, and I closed my eyes. And I became so aware that what I was eating, what I was chewing, was Jesus. That it was the true physical presence of Jesus, and that it was becoming a part of me at that point. And as I'm swallowing, I'm thanking God for this realization. And still kneeling, still with my eyes closed, I felt Jesus standing right in front of me. And I felt how he had the holes in his hands, and he was covered in blood. He had the holes in his hands, the holes in his feet. He was still crowned with thorns, and he had his hands on my head praying over me. And still kneeling there, I could feel his pain, not just from the wounds that he had, but that I was trying to deal with everything that I have been trying to deal with family, friends, school, a pandemic. And I was trying to figure those out, and I wasn't just taking the time to give them to him and to be with him. And I just started crying, and he was saying, "Just let me love you, just rest in me and surrender." But one of the biggest blessings, again, that I've received isn't just some solitary moment one time at Mass. For me, throughout these months, I found the most peace in adoration. Frankly, it's the only place where I feel like I can find peace in these last couple months. And going to church and specifically looking at the crucifix and seeing how the blood runs from his hands and how it's dripping from his feet, and he's still wearing the crown of thorns. And sometimes I lay underneath it and I look up at it, trying to imagine what Mary would have felt, and Mary Magdalene and John as they were underneath of it, seeing his pain, but knowing that it was out of love. And adoration is something that happens every single day, but it's not the cross. it's not looking up at Jesus that gives me peace. It's what's under the cross, and that's the tabernacle. And it's not just the tabernacle, it's what's in the tabernacle, and that's Jesus. And he's still present. He's not just some man that walked the earth 2,000 years ago. He's still living and present in physical form right there. And he's not just once a week at Mass. He's there every single day. And he's still so passionately in love with all of us and with me. And what I learned through all of this, through reflecting on the Passion, was not just surrender, but to surrender everything, invite him into it, and then take up your cross. I'll be praying for all of you guys, and I hope you have a blessed and safe Lent.